Hey everyone, it's Orange. Welcome to my May 2017 Rune and Dungeon Team Showcase video. The purpose of my monthly rune videos is to document how my runes are progressing month to month to month. Now, I know most people don't have time to watch the entirety of all of my rune videos, but it's more of just a little hobby of mine, and I know they're becoming quite long. I'll try to make this one short, or as short as I can, but yeah, I just like having it somewhere even though I don't go back and watch it more than once, because I have to watch it through once to make sure nothing weird happened in the video that I have to edit out. So yeah. I don't know, I just thought I'd give you guys an explanation if you guys don't know yet. So first, I'm going to explain any new things that happened this month, so if you guys are watching the video, you can know what to look out for, what changed from last month, and maybe some new directions I'm heading in or whatever. And then, after that, we're just going to get straight into the runes. So the things that changed this month that I did on free rune removal were number 1, making a brand new necro team. I talked about this team in my latest Path to Decency episode, and I explained how it worked and stuff. I knew that having double Rigel Colleen, would most likely be my endgame necro team, and that's that. Like, there's nothing better to get, because from what I've seen on Reddit, everyone says that liches are the best monsters for necro along with Colleen, so I knew it'd be pretty safe to 6-star both of those and also give them some skill ups. So this one is lacking full skill ups, and I've decided to pause on that one for now, but I did fully skill this one up. I think I had 2 liches to put on him, and then everything else was Devilmon. And then I think if we look at over like a long period of time, however much longer I'm going to be playing Summoner's War, in my entirety of playing Summoner's War, I've never summoned a single Fire Lich or a single Wind Lich, and I think I've gotten a couple Water Liches. I think I got 2 Water Liches, and then these 2 were from the Hall of Heroes. I can't quite remember, but the likelihood that I actually summon Lich skill ups is very small, and we may have a Hall of Heroes. I think the likelihood of another Lich Hall of Heroes is pretty high, so I left this one unskilled for those, and I think Devilmoning him is fine. Whenever you consider if you should Devilmon something, you need to think about all your other monsters, because it takes a long time to save up enough Devilmon for things. I'm not getting Nat 5s, so I think this decision was perfectly fine to actually get a necro team working right now, because that's what I need. I need a necro team that I can actually run and farm runes with, because I need will runes. And then there was another bonus to necro. Having nemesis runes won't be a bad thing in case I do pull a nemesis healer, like Beta, Praha, Ariel, the legit nemesis healers that exist out there. The list is very small. And then I think there was another benefit to farming necro, but I forgot about it now. So, oh yeah, will runes for my Lucians. So I've been thinking about camping out in giants for my Lucians, and I've been hearing, I was actually on Reddit kind of like creeping around, and I heard that Too Lazy to Die was saying on the Asia server that they just pretty much camp out in giants, like that's the only dungeon they farm. So I thought that was pretty legit. Like that's been one of my thoughts, because the runes there can get you high ranked in arena, but I think will's really important. So I think my will runes can be improved slightly. And then for Guild Wars 2, I think it's okay to keep a balance of things for now, for me, to get will runes for Guild Wars, and also for cleave teams. I forgot about that too. So I'm kind of finding that I need to be in all dungeons, and my little giants plan isn't really working out too well, or it wasn't even a plan in the first place. But yeah, so I need a necro team now, and liches need skill ups. So here's my team. If you look at this team, I have every single necessary necro debuff imaginable. I'll do a run while I'm talking about this. So Lucian has unrecoverable, Colleen has unrecoverable, Colleen has the attack debuff, Bella has a defense break, both of my liches have a defense break, and both of my liches have a slow. So those are all of the necessary necro debuffs, and then of course having things like branding and what else is there, dots, that can speed up necro a little bit. But this is just kind of what I'm working with now. I've been watching the runs and I've been noticing how well this team works because I built this team off of other people's recommendations mainly. Basically, I see everyone using Colleen, so she's what I'm going to use, and everyone says that liches are really good, and then I had seen a ton of recommendations to use Lucian in the first slot because of his leader skill, and mine's already built extremely well for Arena because every single day I do, like 30 wings or however many regenerate through the day, and I need my double Lucians to work well every single day, so he already has good runes on him. So he was a really nice decision for the first slot. If you guys noticed, my Bella also has a shield set on her, which I had seen people recommending to help your team survive the first couple waves, and she's a very good candidate for shield because revenge isn't that strong on her. If she does proc revenge, she's only hitting the enemy once, and you need to hit the enemy multiple times, the necro boss, to pop that shield. So I have her on shield, and then also, what else is there? One more thing, but there's like so many thoughts going on in my head because I did test the Fire Panda out, he didn't work too well. I actually ended up using Bella because my team right now is basically half of a speed team and half of a safe team because I did put Bella in there. So it's not a full speed team yet, I'm in that safe zone still. I don't think I have the runes to really jump to a faster team. So the run times are between 1 minute and 30 seconds and 2 minutes. I'm really satisfied with these, and I feel like I can actually farm necro at this point with this team. The other thing that I wanted to mention is my lich's speed tuning. The one that doesn't have skill ups moves first because when the boss has the shield up, you cannot debuff him. And it doesn't actually say that anywhere, I don't think. I could be wrong about that, but I was just watching the runs and no debuffs land when he has that shield up, and I don't think it says anywhere. I tried looking. So the lich without skill ups moves first because, let me go ahead and check out my liches. Because of the cool time turn, and I also think because of the harmful effect rate, yeah. So this one moves first, the one without the powered up stuff, just to pop that shield a little bit, get some hits on it. And then my lich that can more reliably land debuffs moves after him, because when the shield's down, that's really when I need to land my debuffs, so that's one thing that I did. I built this lich first. I just looked for a build that had good damage on it, and then after this lich was done, then I went ahead and made this one the same speed or faster, and he ended up being 2 speed faster. So yeah, so that's that. And then, so that's Necro. I have my new team. I'm focusing on farming Necro and R5 this month, and then next month I might do something else. I usually jump back and forth based on whatever my current need is. So the other big thing that I worked on this month was my R5 teams, or team. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about because I can make a couple different teams, well, variations of this team. This is my new main R5 team. Notice it has 2 damage dealers on it. I haven't been able to do that in the past. Last month, I believe I was using my safe team, which only had Hua on it as the single damage dealer, and I think it had Darien and Fire Panda instead of Shaolin and Diaz. So we got the Diaz Hall of Heroes. He's one of my core monsters that I like to use for R5, and as you guys can see, I also have 2 leader skills available to me to use on my R5 team. I also built Darien and the Fire Panda this month if I need to swap them in, so right now I can be very versatile with my R5 teams to make up for anything that my teammates don't bring or can't bring. So I have all 3 of the main leader skills. And then if I notice that my teammates have enough unrecoverable debuffs, then I can go ahead and throw Darien in here if someone else has a resist lead for more defense breaks. And defense breaks are very important to kill the boss quickly because you need to be doing damage to him to kill him. Damage is the main thing that determines how fast your runs are. But you still need to bring a team with all of the necessary debuffs because they're necessary. So yeah, this is another variation, probably the second most common variation of my core team that I like to use. And then I also have the Fire Panda that I can use as well. So this would be the variation that I use with the Fire Panda because I like to have the monster up here, Diaz or Darien, that has the damage reduction thing. I don't know if it's really damage reduction, I think it is. Whatever, Diaz and Darien's passives, I always like to carry one of those on my team, but thinking about it now, this month I actually built my R5 monsters very tanky, and I actually followed the advice of a Reddit comment on a Reddit post that suggested to have your backliners have 18,000 HP and 1,000 defense, and then the frontliners to have 30,000 HP and 1,500 defense. So I tried to shoot for those numbers. I think I went a little bit overkill and made my monsters tankier than that. And I just figured, why not go for those numbers, see how this month goes, and then next month I can go ahead and tune it differently based on what my findings are this month, how I notice my monsters, how they're doing in terms of survivability. So out of these monsters, the only one that kind of gets close to dying sometimes is Lisa. So I will have to figure out what I'm doing next month. I'm really satisfied with how my R5 team's working out, how the damage is, how fast my runs are with my allies, and how much versatility I have. So I might keep them the same if I can. That's probably what I'm most comfortable doing because most of the time, they always survive the 3rd jump. It's very rare that they die. So I think that was about it that I had to say for R5. And then 2 other small things that you guys should look out for. I think this month was the first month that reappraisal stones were introduced, so I did pick up quite a few more runes this month than I usually would have, purely because reappraisal stones were introduced. They are very, very strong, so I wanted to point that out to you guys to have you be aware of it. And yeah, I did pick up a lot of runes that I reappraised and they turned out being good. Also, last month I farmed a bit of R5, so I have quite a few new gems and grindstones on my runes. Nothing really amazing that I remember to point out, but I'm just slowly working on that process of grinding everything and slowly picking up some gems that I can put on my runes. So yeah, that was the whole intro to the video. Sorry it was long, but I just felt like going, so I just kept going. So let's go ahead and jump into the runes. The first monster is Soha. She's only runed up so I can use her for the Fire Rift Beast because each week I need to farm 3 reappraisal stones. For the Fire Beast, I think I'm getting S's. I might get some A+. So I just looked for a build that had damage, so I think she might be attack, crit damage, attack. Yeah, pretty standard attacker build. That's the one that I went for. And then I just chose Vampire kind of randomly. There's no reason behind it. So yeah, I don't really use her aside from the Fire Rift Beast. She's very low priority. Here's my Megan. She's a higher priority monster. Her runes did change this month, but I runed her the exact same. I think I had to rune something before her. Something happened, all of my runes got shuffled around, but she's very similar to how she was last month. So she's speed tuned to move with both of my arena offenses, my Double Lucian AO and my Shimate Lucian AO. If Bernard moves, she will follow up. Nothing can cut in between my Bernard and Megan if they move first, but I think if other enemies move before me, things can cut in. And then I gave her 85% accuracy because that's what's believed to be the accuracy cap for PvP. If an enemy monster has 100% resist, all you need is 85% accuracy to have the highest chance of debuffing them. Any more accuracy than 85% is useless. I think some players still have differing opinions on that. Some think 100% is better, but I just went for 85 on her, and then after that I went for tanky stats. So I made sure she was speed tuned, made sure she had 85% accuracy, and then as tanky as possible. So she's a pretty standard Megan, I would say. Here's my Sig. Just like Soha, he's only runed up for the Fire Rift Beast, so he's on some random stuff, and it's not exactly fully powered up yet. His 2 and 6 are actually not powered up. Whoops, but that's okay. He's been doing his job, which is getting me S's, sort of, sometimes, on the Fire Beast. I think I sometimes get A's still. Here's my Theomars. He stayed the exact same from last month. I did look at some builds for him on the Rune Optimizer, and I didn't see anything that I wanted to change him to. This build, I felt personally like it was still the best build I could roll with, so this is the one that I'm still rolling with this month. Next monster is my Galleon. He did change quite a bit. I was noticing that in some of my dungeon runs, I use Galleon in Giants and Dragons. I think one of my Lucians still moves before him, so I kind of failed on properly speed tuning him, but this month I tried to make him faster because last month I was noticing he wasn't moving before my attackers in my dungeon teams, so I kind of failed. I'm not using him in PvP anymore, so I basically only use him for my Giants team, my Dragons team, and my TOA normal team, and like half of TOA hard. So he's pretty low on the rune priority totem. Well, I guess lower on the totem means that you're like higher ranked, because that's how totems work. So he'd be higher on the totem. Yeah, so he's low priority, and I'm not really utilizing him to his full potential this month. So this is how he ended up. I did try to give him good accuracy. I can actually power this one up and get him to that 85% mark, because that's what I think is the accuracy cap for PvP, but if anyone comes out with more information, I will change my mind on that if it turns out that 100% is better. So I gave him that just in case I used him for PvP, but I haven't yet. I used to use Galleon, Lagmar on Bernard, but there are so many will runes out there that I can't use that team anymore. It just doesn't work. So, well, it works sometimes, but really it doesn't work as effectively as it did when I was fighting lower ranking guilds. So yeah, poor Galleon, but 1 month I'll utilize him better, and maybe even build a cleave team Galleon, like a will shield Galleon. That's been one of my thoughts. Maybe I'll get another Galleon eventually. Maybe I'll go for one with summoning stones, I don't know. Here is my better Rigel, the one that I runed up first. He's on a very standard necro build, violent revenge, attack, crit damage, attack, and he doesn't have to be super fast for necro, so I did allow him to be a little bit slow. And that's pretty much him. One of my viewers was actually commenting, he commented on one of my recent videos about necro accuracy, and right now I feel like my Rigels are okay at debuffing the boss. You guys watched that run at the beginning of the video, and sometimes they miss a few times before applying those debuffs, but I feel like they're good enough at applying debuffs where I don't really need to be too concerned. But in the future, if I can get that accuracy to whatever it has to be for necro, I think the accuracy cap for necro is 45%, the hard cap, I will get that accuracy. But for now, this is just how it is. Next monster is Julie. Just like Soha and Sig, she's only runed up for the Fire Rift Beast because AoE is very strong for that monster, or that boss, I guess we could say, if that's technically what it's called, so that is what she's runed up for. Here is my Shaolin. She is one of my main damage dealers for my R5 team, along with Hua. So she came up very early on in my rune ordering. I didn't talk about this at the beginning of the video, but the way I runed my monsters were number 1, my AO, so Bernard and my 2 Lucians. Megan doesn't need good runes to work well, so I runed her up a little bit later on. After my AO, I runed up my Guild Wars monsters because they need very good runes to perform, Veligul, Ritesh, Orion, stuff like that. And then following that, I runed up my R5 team because R5 has some pretty heavy stat requirements. On your damage dealers, you need tankiness and damage. I did have to cut back on the damage a little bit because I wanted to make sure that they survived first. And then your healers have to be fast for R5, your cleanser has to be fast. So R5 is what I did after that, and then after R5, pretty much everything else. So Shaolin was in that R5 grouping. Next monster is Rina. I haven't been using her because I've actually been testing out a new Rush Hour AD. I used it last week and got Guardian 1. I was rank 140, so I was very close to Guardian 2, but last week was Mother's Day. Sunday was Mother's Day and Rush Hour was Sunday night. So maybe it was an easy week, I don't know. It did not feel like an easy week, but I don't know if that matters, like if my opinion of it helps, if that's good data. So the new Rush Hour defense I'm testing, or, you know, playing around with, is Freya in the first slot right here for the resist lead, but right now I'm running Theomars midweek just so people can't test my AD too much, because they might be able to remember my name and remember that they can kill me quickly. So yeah, I'm not using Renu right now. Next monster is Tark. Right now he's only on my Dragons B10 team, and I can't recall if he's on any of my current Rift Beast teams, but I ruined him, I think, after I ruined my R5 monsters, because I want him to be runed up kind of well to do good enough damage in Dragon's B10 to make my runs fairly fast. So I never forget about Tark, and he does get ruined up pretty early. He's on a pretty standard Tark build for dragons, you know, violent, so he gets a lot of turns, so he can bring other monsters with him to attack the boss. So that's Tark. Next monster is Miyang. She is my main healer for my R5 team. Actually, the only healer that I use. If you guys haven't seen JX9's Reddit post for R5, it's a guide to help you choose which monsters you should use for R5. Definitely check that out. It's one of the highest quality Reddit posts that I've ever seen, and I followed that when I picked my monsters. Miyang is, I think, the theoretical best healer for R5, so that's why I chose her to be my healer. And also, if I ever look to make a YOLO R5 team, because my team right now is still kind of safe, I think triple damage dealer is kind of when you get into that zone of a YOLO R5 team. I think Miyang probably will need skill ups for that, but right now she's unskilled. Next monster is the Rigel that moves first in the turn order. He's not fully skilled, so like I said earlier, I have him moving before my fully skilled Rigel, just to soften that shield up, get some hits on it, maybe completely break it, so the other one can land some debuffs. So here's him, and then he's on the standard necro monster build, Violent Revenge. Next monster is Orion. He stayed the exact same from last month because I did look at builds for him to see if I could improve him, and all of the builds that I saw, I didn't like any of them compared to this one. I still felt like this one was the best one I can build him with right now, so that's how I left him. So yeah, for him I just go fast with decent accuracy and decent tankiness. So I did have to cut back on the speed a little bit to give him some accuracy and tankiness. So yeah, that's my Orion. Orion would be a good monster to look at to understand my current rune quality, I guess we could say. Maybe it's a bad term to call it current rune quality, but if you're looking at the monsters that have my best runes on them, I would look at Orion, my Lucian that moves second, the one that's repped, and then like my R5 monsters. So that ordering that I talked about earlier, what was it? My Lucians, Bernard, Guild Wars monsters, Orion, Veligul, Ritesh, Who else? I should mention when I use some stuff in Guild Wars as we're going along here. I don't think I use anything over here besides Theomars. Theomars is one to look at for my rune quality. If you guys want to see what my best runes are, pay attention to those monsters. Next monster's Beretta. He did give runes away to some things. I think he had to give some runes away for broken sets. He might have had a shield rune that went on Chasoon. I can't quite remember. I built him like your standard TOA Beretta this month, so I think he got slightly worse just because he had to donate, but overall I think he's looking really good with his tankiness, his HP, and his defense, and his speed for TOA and TOA hard. I just finished TOA normal and hard a couple days ago, so everything went very smoothly with him. I have 45% accuracy on him for TOA and TOA hard because that's all you need. Any more doesn't help you at all for those two things. Next monster is my Colleen. She is one of my main healers for R5 along with Miang. So I did rune her up as well as I could. She came up very early on in the rune order, right after my Lucians, Bernard, and my Guild Wars monsters. Then it was Colleen. I may have ruined Lisa before her, I can't remember. So she's a very standard R5 Colleen. As many revenge sets as I can get. She has high resistance. She's actually resistance capped for R5. Most people run a 30% resist lead for R5, which will put her at 100% when that resist lead's there. So I have her at 70% resist for R5. I gave her 45% accuracy for necro. You only need 15% accuracy for R5. But I did give her that because I knew I'd be using her in necro. And then after that, I made her as fast as I could, and I gave her the correct tank stat requirements for R5 from that Reddit comment recommendation. She's actually a bit under what the comment recommended, which was 30,000 HP, 1,500 defense. But the thing is, when I started doing R5 a while ago, I was only using a 2-man frontline, and I was using Darien and the Fire Panda, and I had both of those monsters at 30,000 HP, 1,500 defense, and they were doing fine like that. But right now I actually have a 4-man frontline, so I felt like it was okay to make her not as tanky as those requirements suggested, just because I do have a 4-man frontline, and she's been doing fine in terms of survivability. Lisa is the only one that I would say I've noticed has gotten very close to dying. And I'll show you guys my team again if you want to visualize it. So this is my current team, 4-man frontline, 2-man backline. Okay, let's go ahead and jump on back over here to the next monster. Okay, next monster is Spectra. I didn't use him at all this month, so we're not going to even go over his runes because I don't know what he's got going on and I'm not using him, so we're going to go ahead and skip over him. Next monster's Veligil. He's runed up for Guild Wars, and I do think I need to change my Guild Wars defenses because I think the one where I'm using Veligil can actually, no, maybe not, but I'm a little bit worried that Veligil is lacking in the HP department because he has very low HP. But I decided last month, I think he may have stayed the same this month, I can't remember. Maybe some runes got changed around. I wanted to save all of my builds to show you guys exactly what changed, but I lost them because I had to rune my monsters up twice, basically, because I made a mistake somewhere along the line and then had to redo most of my builds. But last month I decided to rune him with a good amount of defense just so he was doing damage because his damaging skills scale off of his defense. So I think that's fine. It also helps out in bruiser fights. Well, I guess more than bruiser fights, but I'm sure you guys are aware of the concept of effective HP because your defense and your HP go into, well, I guess I don't really know how it works, but defense reduces the damage that you take, so I figured let's just get a mix of both to get his effective HP kind of high, but I may need to change that in the future, I don't know. Yeah, so Veligil's a hard one to build, I feel, and this is how mine ended up looking. this month. I also like to give him good resist and accuracy because I like to use Theomar's Velagil Chasoon for Guild Wars against Sierra Orion teams. Things like Sierra Orion Leica, Sierra Orion Rakan, Sierra Orion Theo. So my Chasoon actually has a shield set on, which means that Velagil has a will buff and a shield buff, and I just like to reduce the odds that Orion stuns both of my supports. I like to reduce them as much as I can. So I did give him accuracy so he can strip things with his first skill, and then resistance to avoid getting stunned and stuff, because sometimes when I'm fighting Orions, I'm going to lose that shield set after a couple turns, and I still want him to have good resist so Orion doesn't strip him and stun him, because he is my cleanser and he provides the immunity for my team, so I also went for those stats. Next monster is my Verd. He stayed the exact same from last month. Last month I think was the first time that I changed him to a support Verd. For a couple months there, maybe 2 months, well, maybe not 2 months, maybe it was just a month or two, I don't remember. I ran him as more of a damage dealer Verd for my Dragons team, but I felt like it'd probably be a bit safer to switch him back to a support Verd, and he's been doing pretty well on that build. So here he is, he's on a very standard Verd build right here, Violent Revenge, speed, crit rate, and then whatever you get over there, HP or attack, whatever floats your boat. So that's Verd. Here's my Freya. One thing to say about her is that this wasn't the actual build that I would prefer to have her on. I think the best build I can give her involves a rune from Bulldozer and another monster. So this is kind of a weird temporary build. This is the build, well, maybe not temporary. This is the build that I actually ran her on last rush hour, and she did get me Guardian 1 with this build. I was actually talking with one of my friends yesterday, and I hit his defense, he hit mine, and we were kind of giving each other feedback. He gave me some really good feedback on my defense, and there was one thing, oh yeah, he suggested shield for my team. I'll pull up my team again so you guys can see it. Because he was actually using Gemini for his AO, and I don't know how many people use Gemini. I have a feeling more than most people would suspect. So I think getting a shield set on my monsters would be good. Velagil has will, Freya has will, and then getting a shield set somewhere would be optimal just to throw off Gemini teams because I do think they exist. So right now I kind of want to keep her on Despair Will. And then I might try to put shield on Ritesh or Orion. I think Orion might be the best choice for shield because I could do something like will shield on Orion, and then eventually I'll get Ritesh on, I'll get him on Violent Will, which is the best, like, that's the, I mean, not the best, but, because I've seen Ritesh's ran on Violent Revenge, but Violent Will is one of the end game Ritesh builds, and right now I can't support it because I just don't have the runes to. I haven't farmed necro enough. So let's go ahead and continue on here. Where were we? At Freya. Next monster is my Hua. She is my other main damage dealer for my main R5 team along with Shaolin. So when I runed her up, I kept R5 in mind. I did not want to put her on Violent just because Violent is not good for R5 because you take up a lot of turns and tick up the boss's counter. So from what I've seen, people suggest to have one of your healers on Violent along with your cleanser, and that's kind of like the maximum people recommend. So for her, I pretty much hit those stat requirements from that Reddit comment, 18,000 HP and 1,000 defense for backline. And then after I hit those requirements, I looked for as much damage as I could get on her as possible. Her crit rate might be a little bit high because most of the time, 99% of the time, you have a 19% crit rate leader for R5, so 72 plus 19, that's getting kind of high. I might be able to afford to lose some crit rate for some damage, but this is how she is now. Her resist ended up being okay, like that's pretty high, and her accuracy is accuracy capped for R5, 15%. I've noticed that my Shaolin gets stunned a lot compared to Hua, but actually their resist, oh yeah, Hua has almost double, more than double, no, less than double, Shaolin's resist, so yeah, I can kind of see why now. It just sucks when Shaolin gets stunned because I'm like, damn, like do your water dragon attack, and she never does. So maybe I need to look at fixing Shaolin because it might just work out that Shaolin's speed is so low, or it might be fine that way, but I've noticed that the boss moves, like, he kind of messes Shaolin up. I think Hua attacks, but then right after she attacks, the boss moves. I don't know. But yeah, I've noticed Shaolin has had some issues, but I should look more closely when I run with different people, because maybe it's only when I run with certain people, and our runs are, like, slower. I don't know. So yeah, Hua is a very standard R5 Hua. Here's my Lisa. She is my R5 cleanser, so I have her on violence, and actually she's my only violent monster on my R5 team, and I made her as fast as I could while hitting those tanky stats too, and I think I tried to go for accuracy on her. Actually, I guess I couldn't get it. So she's extremely fast. I think 220 is kind of what people recommend to go for R5 cleansers, definitely over 200. So I think 220 is a really good number. And then for frontline, 1,000 defense, well, 1,500 defense, 30,000 HP. I wasn't quite able to hit that, but I think that it's okay because I have a 4-man frontline again. And then after that, 70% resistance, that's necessary for an R5 cleanser or an R5 healer, so that's what I went for. And then I did try to get 15% accuracy on her, just so she could land her debuffs if she happened to use them, or have a high chance to land them, because like I said, 15% accuracy is the hard cap for R5, any more doesn't help you. And I wasn't able to hit that, but that's okay because I like all of her other stats. I would take that trade-off. So that's Lisa. Next monster is my Bulldozer. I did make a mistake with him this month. I forgot to rune him on Will, so I noticed that a little bit late. I was noticing in Guild Wars that he was getting stunned after he did his 3rd skill, and I wasn't sure why. I was like, maybe the other team has some sort of buff removal. Nope, I just forgot to put him on Will. So next month I will have to fix him, but he's been working okay without it. Next monster is my Fire Panda. He's one of my substitutes for R5 if necessary. If my 2 allies do not have a defense leader, I have one. I have him on Triple Revenge. His base stats are so high because he's a Nat 5 that I was able to get 3 such sets of revenge on him. I wasn't able to before this month, I don't think. I think I was only able to get 2 sets. I did mess around with a damage dealer build for him, but I did try attack crit I tried defense crit damage defense for him because I did test him on my necro team. Bella ended up being the final monster that I went with, and he didn't quite make the cut. So for R5, I think I had to rune my monsters up again, like I told you guys, and I think what happened with him was I was just like, I'm too lazy to look at any sort of damage dealer builds. Let's just build him tanky enough and be done with it. Let's get 15% accuracy. Let's just be done with it. So for him, I looked to make him as slow as I could, so he's not taking turns in R5, so my more important monsters that bring more to the table, that have more in their kits, can take those turns up. And so he's not ticking up the boss's counter. So that's what I did with him. Again, frontline 30,000 HP, 1,500 defense. He's way over that, so I probably could have gone for some damage, but I got kind of lazy. Next monsters are my mummies. They are unruned, so I'm not going to show those to you guys, and I'm kind of straying away from using them because I've gotten Guardian 1 with them 6 or 7 times, and they've given me very consistent data. I did change them 2 weeks ago, and I made them squishier than I was running them. I was running them kind of tanky, and my thought process behind that was hopefully if I made them tanky, they'd be able to hold up a bit better against bruiser teams, Theomars, Tessarian, Chisoon, stuff like that, right? And people might take some time out to bruiser me because I think if you use Tessarian, people have told me killing them, it doesn't actually take that long to kill them. So I had them a bit tanky, then 2 weeks ago I made them squishy, and they gave me the same results as the tanky ones did the couple weeks before that. So I'm actually trying to not use them just so I don't have to move my runes over every week, every time I rush to my mummies, because they don't have many runes on and it costs a lot of mana. So I'm trying to make do with what I have, and I think I have a pretty good defense I was showing you guys earlier. So I think this defense is definitely good enough, with Freya, of course, instead of Theomars, to get me Guardian 1, and I don't think I need to use those mummies. And I'm still kind of, I haven't quite decided what defense I'm going to use when I look to get Guardian 2. I think I will need more offenses at my disposal. Well, not really at my disposal, because I guess I wouldn't be disposing of them, but at my use. I don't know. I'm bad at English, guys. But yeah, I think I need more offenses for sure when I look to get Guardian 2 consistently, because I can get Guardian 1 consistently, but I think getting Guardian 2 consistently is going to be kind of a step up. And I think what I'm going to need to do is to be able to handle these highest ranking players on my lists when I'm rushing. And I don't think I can really afford many losses when I'm rushing. And I think hitting those highest ranking players is going to be really important when I look to get Guardian 2 consistently. So yeah, because in my mind, I'm thinking about how my defense does and how my offense does, because where you finish in arena is a combination between the two. So I'm thinking about like the weights that they're both gonna pull. Like if I have my offense extremely strong, then how my defense is doing right now is gonna be okay. I don't need it to be doing any better. Because even the new defense that I tested didn't do very miraculously. It was pretty solid though. Next monster is Copper. He did gain damage this month, so that was a bonus. I was looking at builds for him, and I noticed there were a few that had more damage than his previous build did. So I went ahead and chose one of those for him. I did have to make a trade-off though. He lost a bit of speed. I think he had plus 30 speed, something like that. I know it's very small, but compared to plus 9, I'd rather have the plus 30. So I made that trade-off. He's slower, but he's still working out very well. And right now with Delphoy, he's doing 55,000 damage per Thunderstrike, because Delphoy has the defense leader. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw this morning when I did Guild Wars. So that's just a reference number for you guys if you're wondering. And that's kind of the range that I've noticed that some monsters might survive. It really depends on if there's an HP leader or not. But without an HP leader, I think 55,000 damage is a pretty confident number to kill most tanky things. Like, for example, I'm kind of thinking of Ritesh, for example. But of course, I would like him to be doing more, as always. Copper's one of those monsters that many people run, and many people have better Coppers than me, so I'm always looking at improving him, and this month he did get improved, so that was good. Eventually, I might want to put Will on him. I think that's something that people do when they can support it, because sometimes you want that Will because the enemy team might move first, or you might purposely let them move first. But for now, he's not. So that is my Copper. Next monster is Bernard. He stayed the exact same from last month, but I can actually make him 300 speed with certain runes. I think he would need to take Theomars' slot 5 rune off of him, and I really don't want to give up that slot 5 rune because it's so good for an attacker. So let me show you that rune. I can't remember if he needs to take it or not. He might though, because that's pretty fast. So let's go back to Bernard. Where is he? Over here. Okay, so I did look at those builds that had plus 300 speed, and I don't like to change anything before free rune removal. I like to do all my changes on free rune removal, because if I changed a monster like Bernard, he will shift around way too many runes, and I kind of have like a whole chain set up. If one monster early on in the chain gets changed, then it's just way too difficult to make everything else work out. So I did look at those builds, and my Bernard right now is very nice looking because of his high accuracy and his tankiness. The builds where he does have 300 speed don't look as nice as this. His accuracy drops, and I like to rely on that accuracy to debuff monsters like Rakan and Laika. Sometimes it does land on those fire monsters, but thinking about it now, monsters like that shouldn't have high resist, but maybe it does help. I can't do the math in my head right now to figure out what that 65% accuracy, how much more of an advantage it gives me compared to lower accuracy, like 15% or whatever. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep him like this or change him to those 300 speed builds, but I know he needs to be faster. If I'm looking to compete in Guardian 2, Guardian 3, he does need to be faster. It's just something that has to happen. I can't sit here and cling on to the wall of the pool and not learn to swim. That's what I did when I was younger. I'm sure you guys did too. So yeah, I need to take that leap sometime, and I don't know when it'll be. So something to think about. Next monster is Mav. He's actually currently only runed up for the Fire Rift Beast. Sounds weird, doesn't it? But his Wings of Wind actually really helps with my AoE damage dealers. Shout out to my guildmate Denbo for helping me immensely with my R5, or not my R5, with my Rift Beast teams, so I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So this is my current team, and Mav helps out those AoE monsters a lot, just to make sure that I definitely have my AoE up and ready for when the crystals pop up. So I actually didn't use Mav at all this month for TOA hard, so he's just runed up for the Fire Beast. Next monster is Shimate. His damage from last month did drop, and I would like to increase it a little bit. When I use him on AO, he's on one of my 2 AOs. Well, yeah, I don't know if that made sense. I only have 2 AOs right now, and he's on one of them. When I use him with Megan, Bernard, and Lucian. So Bernard moves first, then Megan, then Shimate. And with Shimate, I use this skill. Generally, this is the skill that I use, and this whole Shimate lineup has worked out pretty well for me. So I use his Cyclone to soften up the enemies a little bit. He only softens up the enemies a slight bit, but that's enough to soften them to let my Lucian clean up. And with this AO, I only hit squishy defenses, something like Sierra, Orion, Amduat, and then Praha or something like that. The 3 monsters that I mentioned first are going to die to my Shimate Cyclone and my Lucian's Amputation Magic, and Praha will most likely survive. She'll be the only one who survives, and I can win the 4v1. So I would like to have him do a little bit more, but he's been working out just fine. I used to use him unruned for a long time, so I'm sure it works without runes, but just for that extra little bit of safety net, I would like to give him a little bit more damage. And then for his build, it's just broken stuff with damage, and then I also made sure he moves right before my Lucian does. Next monster is Lagmaron. He actually got unruned because my Galleon Lagmaron Bernard team hasn't been working that well in Guardian 3 Guild Wars because so many people have will runes, and there aren't many teams out there that I can kill that this team's good against, because when I go into fights, I just have to assume that the entire enemy team has will, basically. I know some monsters aren't built on will. I know it's safe to assume certain monsters don't have will based on what they are, but a lot of monsters do. Like, pretty much, I think most monsters in Summoner's War, will is one of the most recommended rune sets for them. Ritesh, Veligil, even Orion, a lot of people have will on, so Leos can't push them back. So when I use, if I happened to want to use Galleon, Lagmaron, Bernard, I think the only things I could possibly fight are teams that I can kill something first turn. things like Sierra, Orion, whatever. If it's Sierra, Orion, fire monster like Laika or Rakan, I think it's too risky to bring. But if it's like Sierra, Orion, Theomars, I think the Lagmaron team's okay to bring, except for the fact that I was testing Lagmaron Squall against squishy monsters like Sierra, but if Sierra has 30,000 HP, if I have speed buff and attack buff from Galleon, last month my Lagmaron failed to Squall a Sierra. So I just think this team cannot work. I mean, if I did put my best runes on Lagmaron, it might work, but I've pretty much given up on it. I do think I can use a Lagmaron on a cleave team for Guild Wars eventually, and probably even for Arena, but right now I didn't look at making that work because it's quite an endeavor, and I would have to make Galleon much differently, and I'm not sure build him a lot differently, and I don't know if that's really going to work out because I still use Galleon in Giants and Dragons. So Lagmaron's kind of rip this month. Next monster is Chisoon. This month I did put her on a shield set because I wanted to improve my success rate against Sierra Orion teams in Guild Wars, and having that shield set is going to give Veligil a shield buff along with his will set, which makes it so that I have one of my support monsters not stunned and that they can do the immunity or Chisoon can heal. Next monster is Briand. He is not runed, so I'm just going to show you guys his skill ups and then we will move on to Lucian. So I'm not using him this month, but he's still out here because he's a really good monster. So I have him out here if I needed to use him for TOA hard, but I didn't. So yeah. This is the Lucian that moves second on my double Lucian AO, my best Lucian, and he did not change from last month. Yeah, I don't think he changed at all, so I'll just show you guys his stuff and then kind of move along here. He's on Will for monsters like Omduat, Veramos on Nemesis. There are some things out there, I can't remember the list right now. But Will is really useful on the Lucian that moves second. I actually ruined my first Lucian on Will too, the one that moves first, because again, Omduats can sometimes cut the first one, and there are some other things out there too that he can benefit from Will, from having Will. Next monster is Delphoy. She is a new addition to my monster roster, active monster list. So I have her on Violent Will just because Violent's pretty standard for Delphoy, and then Will, so she may not get debuffed. I usually use her with Delphoy, Copper, Amesity. And even with that team, it seems a bit like invincible. That's what I thought at first. I'm like, this is just going to be so easy. Delphoy has heals. Nothing's going to be able to kill me because everything is so tanky. But that is not the case. If you go against things like Laika or Rakan, or even the other day, a Chow killed me. It was Chow plus another monster, and he killed my entire team. I couldn't keep up with heals. It was really mind-blowing. Maybe my monsters are built a little bit wrong and they're not fast enough or something. Maybe Copper's not fast enough. I don't know. But I have found that I have had to be careful when I use that team. But it is effective when you find the right fights to bring it against. I also looked at getting some accuracy and resist on her. I didn't get too much because she came up very late in the rune ordering that I did. So I tried to go for those though, and then I tried to make her kind of fast and kind of tanky too. I didn't even worry about crit rate or anything like that for her lightning drop skill. So yeah, she kind of sucks, but that's kind of what happens because she came up so late. Next monster is Ritesh. He got runed up very early on, right after my Lucians did, basically, and my Bernard. So he should have some of my very good runes on, almost some of my best runes. And I don't think anything changed with him, I can't remember. So let's see. He has okay accuracy. I like to have that so he can land his taunt and his defense break. And then I tried to give him good speed, but he's still kind of slow, and then good tankiness. And I think he can survive most people's coppers, but he's very low, and if people copper him, and Ritesh's AI is bad because he often will use his Trick of Wind. So let me see if I can pull up my defenses here for you guys. Yeah, so my second defense, if someone brings Copper, Bulldozer, Amesity against it, and they have a Will Shield, I think they have a high chance of beating me. Actually, maybe not, because I don't know, because Veligil can strip them. There's still some RNG on my side because then Orion could strip one of the monsters, like either Copper or Bulldozer. So yeah, Ritesh. Kind of a standard Ritesh. Next monster is Amesity. He stayed pretty much the same, but some runes did get moved around, so I think he had to donate some runes to something or other. He may have had a rune here, I believe, that went to something else. So for Amesity, I look to make him as fast as I can, and then I like to get him, after that, I like to see how tanky I can make him, how much accuracy I can give him, because he does have some debuffs that he can land on enemies. So 32% accuracy, not bad. And then he's decently tanky, decently fast. So I usually like to take first turn with him, and I do have to be careful against Orions and stuff like that. I usually will not fight an Orion with Amesity just because it's too much of a contest of who's going to move first. So I usually only fight things that I pretty much know I'm going to move first against. Next monster is my Lucian that moves first on my double Lucian AO. He stayed the same from last month, I think. I looked at changing one rune on him, and I believe it was this slot 5. I switched it with Tark's current slot 5 rune to give this Lucian a little bit more damage, but he started triggering more Nemesis monsters than usual, so I had to bump his damage back down. So right now he's only doing 7,085 damage per card, I think, and that's where I like to keep it. I don't want to make him do any more unless I speed up both of my Lucians. So yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with how they're working, and I just didn't see any. I looked at the builds and I didn't see anything that would make them better. So that's how I kept him. And then he has Will just because there are some things out there that might move before him. Omduat is one of them that I've noticed. So having that Will is just that extra security net for me. Next monster is Ganymede. His build stayed the same from last month, but I think some runes got moved around, and he's not looking super great. He also doesn't have Will. I ruined him up pretty late, even though he's one of my Guild War monsters. He came up pretty late. I don't really have a very clear usage of him right now because he's not on Will, he's not on a cleave team, and it's kind of hard. I did test out using Theomar's Chasoon Ganymede, and even when you bring that against other Theomar's teams, there's just too much risk that you're taking that the enemy Theomar's defense breaks Ganymede and kills him. Will would help with that, but even if you take first turn, so like if my team's faster than the enemy Theo, Ganymede takes first turn, the enemy Theo can come back and still kill me. Actually, yeah, because if he had Will too, I may not be able to strip it. So, yeah, I'm not that comfortable with how Ganymede's fitting into all my teams and stuff, so I just kind of built him vaguely. I think that's the best word to use. A vague support build for Ganymede. You know, fast, tanky, and then decent accuracy to strip stuff and reset the attack bar. The skill cooldown cannot be resisted, but the attack bar reset can. So I like to have accuracy for that. So he's just kind of vague. Sometimes I use him, sometimes he works, but I don't have an absolute amazing use for him right now. An amazing team comp or anything like that. Next monster is Darien. He's one of my substitutes for my R5 team. Double Revenge is good for R5, and what I basically do is, if my teammates have enough unrecoverable debuffs with all of our Colleen's, let's say they both have Diaz, then I like to put Darien in there to get a lot of defense breaks so we can continue to do a lot of damage to the boss, just so the defense break won't fall off, because if you're running Diaz's defense break is on the second skill, which does have a cooldown, but Darian's defense break is on the first skill, which doesn't have a cooldown, and Darian's on revenge. So I like to have him runed up for R5 because he has been useful. I have used him when I'm doing R5 with other people. Next monster is Bella. She is on my necro team, so I have her on a shield set to help my team survive those first few waves in necro, and then she's pretty much on a support build, speed, defense, HP, just so she's tanky enough to survive. I made her kind of fast too, so she can heal a lot, and then I also gave her 45% accuracy for necro. Next monster is Arya. I did use her on my TOA hard auto team this month, and she worked out pretty well. I did have to donate some runes off of her to some other things, because she previously did have some of my best despair runes. I have had her on Despair Revenge for a while. Revenge is good for her first skill to boost up her attack bar. If she revenges and sleeps something, her attack bar will boost up. So I think she got a little bit worse from last month, but overall she's looking mighty fine. Maybe her defense could be a bit higher, but I like her speed, I like her accuracy, and I like her tankiness, so she's good enough for TOA hard. And yeah, I love Arya. She's always been one of my staple monsters for TOA hard. Next monster is Huadam. He stayed the exact same from last month, and I have been worried about that first team that I use because I think it can be copper bulldozered easily. That's the thing that's really kind of been on my mind. I'll show you guys the Guild Wars defense team that I'm talking about when I say team. So I did look at Huadam builds, and again, just like most of my other monsters, I did rune him up very early because I runed up my Bernard, my Lucians, then my Guild Wars stuff, and since he's on my Guild Wars defense, I gave him... He is more of a higher priority for me to give good runes to, and I think this team can be really easily copper bulldozered because Huadam has really crappy stats to go against coppers. Any copper is going to be able to kill this because he doesn't have any HP at all. So I need to fix that first team eventually. I'm looking at getting Kamoon actually in a couple days because today's Friday. I'm looking to get Kamoon on Sunday. Well, I might summon earlier. I don't really know what I'm going to summon, but this current rotation has Kamoon and Lucian, so I might try to put Kamoon in there. I think that first team's just pretty bad because everyone has Copper Bulldozer, and anyone's going to be able to kill that team, so... yeah, but aside from that, Huadam's really, really good on Guild Wars offense when I can control what goes on and people don't have defense ignoring monsters on Guild Wars defense unless they're using, I mean, I haven't seen many, but I can control things more and bring him into smart situations. So I like his build for Guild Wars offense, but this build I would probably not suggest for Guild Wars defense. And then I like his resist too. So yeah. These runes used to be my Rena's runes, but they're on him now. And even if I did build Rena, I think I have a better build for her than this one. So yeah, that's what I am. I runed up Thrain this month to use in TOA hard, and I used him a little bit. I can't really remember what I was doing when I got high up on in the levels. His build really sucks. I ruined him. He was like the last monster that I ruined up. But I decided to just throw some runes on him to see if he would work, and he worked out okay. I don't have any plans to make him any better anytime soon, but in the future I might if I'm looking to do fast TOA hard. So yeah, Thrain's kind of crappy looking, and since Thrain's a support, I built him like a support. Fast, tanky, accuracy for TOA and TOA hard accuracy, 45% hard cap. So that's Thrain. Next monster is Diaz. He's one of my core monsters on my R5 team, one of my frontliners. So I have him on double revenge, really good to land that unrecoverable debuff on the boss. And then I did make him as slow as I could, just so he's not ticking up the boss's turn counter too much. And yeah, I gave him 70% resist for R5, just so he doesn't get stunned, so he can do some stuff, and then 15% accuracy, so he can land his debuffs, and that was pretty much it. Then as tanky as I could make him. I also have some other monsters out here that I might build sometime soon. My Chandra, my Rakuni, and my Isabel. I actually encountered an Isabel on Guild Wars Defense that did a ton of damage to me, so I've been thinking about it, and those are pretty much my next 3 that I might possibly build. Let's go ahead and check out my monster storage. Konamiya might be a possibility if I get a 3rd Lucian this week. I can build a Kona to fill up his attack bar and make him go. Tion, the Light Garuda, is also a popular option for that. My Homunculus is in storage this month. Let's see what else is there. Tessarian, I didn't really want to put him in the rune order because I feel like he'd take too many runes from things, and yeah, I just didn't do that. Gemini and Vero are in storage now. Sad days. That's just what I decided to do. And I decided to make use of my other monsters more this month. I know a lot of people are probably looking at what I have, and they're saying, build Vero, build Tessarian, but I feel like I have a good sense of how good my monsters need to be to compete at this level of Guild Wars and this level of arena. And having that many monsters that I need to build is just not going to work out because I don't have the runes for it. If you look at Delphoy, if you look at some of those other monsters like Ganymede, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's not really going to fly in this ranking of Guild Wars. And the monster itself isn't strong enough to carry those bad runes, because sometimes you can use certain monsters because their kits are so strong, they can counter the other monsters with bad runes themselves. Like if your monster has bad runes on it, but it's a particular counter to the other team, sometimes it works. But if you're going up against even matches, if you have bad runes, it's not going to work out. I haven't done an EXP booster in a few weeks, so I have a lot of fodder in storage, and I'm saving my Devilmon right now because of the Summoning Stone rotation that we have. I might get a Commune or a 3rd Lucian that I want to Devilmon. So I will show you guys my Unsummoned Monsters, the Hall of Heroes that we've had and stuff like that, if you guys want to check that stuff out. So there we go, and then now, what else do we have to do? I guess we can do Glory Shop buildings and Guild Shop buildings, then we can do some dungeon runs. So here's Glory Shop, we're getting pretty close to being finished. And I haven't quite decided if I'm going to buy a few scrolls here and there, or buy scrolls and hold off on these buildings. I did some math with one of my viewers about it, because I went ahead and looked at how many glory points I'm earning per week from my logs here, and every single week I tweet what I finish, like what ranking I finish, so I have some pretty good data from week to week. And we did some math on it, and it ends up being pretty close. If I do rush, and if I do 2 to 3 refills, I will have... Well, actually, I forgot to include arena reset weeks. I don't know, it kind of ends up being close, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, if I'm going to buy some of those scrolls or not. And I kind of forgot what our whole conversation was because there was a lot of math going on, and I don't remember what the entire conclusion was, so yeah. And then here's the Guild Shop stuff. I actually started buying the Rainbow Mon this month because I did some math on how long it takes, how much energy it takes to level up an equivalent fodder monster. So you basically spend 150 guild points and you get a 4-star max level monster. And then I decided to figure out how much energy it would take to level up a 3-star level 1 monster, like something from a mystical scroll, all the way to 4-star max level. And maybe I didn't do the math correctly, but I kind of felt like this would be worth it because I don't know, maybe I screwed up the math. So I've been doing this for now, and maybe that might change in the future, but for now I'm buying that. So let's go ahead and check out some dungeon runs. This is my current Giants team, and this has been my Giants team for a long time now, maybe like half a year, maybe longer. and it's the one that's the fastest and the most successful. It does have a 99 point something % success rate, close to 100%. I haven't farmed giants in a while. I was farming dragons last month to hopefully pick up a rune here or there for my necro team, because my plan for free rune removal was to build a necro team, a new one, and that was successful. So now I'm farming necro and R5. Not really sure when I'll be back in giants. If I do get my third illusion, I may put him on this team if it speeds it up. I think it would. And then I think if you guys pay attention, I think, yeah, that Lucian actually moves before Galleon does, and the first wave kind of gets messed up because both of my Lucians use their amputation magic on the first wave, which is inefficient. So there are some small changes that I can make here to speed up my times, but overall they're pretty fast and I'm satisfied with them for now. And my Galleon's bad, so I messed up his build, but it's still a minute, so that's very good. And I'd run this, if I decided to farm giants this month, I would run that with no problems. I wouldn't lose any sleep at night knowing that Galleon's messed up and that my team's slightly inefficient. Well, more than slightly. But yeah, so Galleon actually moves first here, which I think is good because he can move before Veligil does. If Veligil uses one of his attacks, he can get more damage on things. So at least I got that right. And then let's see what the turn order is. Veligil, Theo, Verd, Tark. I'm not exactly sure if having Tark move before or after Verd is good. I have heard people suggest to have Verd move last. That means that your whole team's attack bar is going to be 0. Verd's going to move and boost everything up. Aside from himself, I guess, because I think Verd moves, then a tick happens. I don't know how that works. Maybe I can see here. Oh, it looks like he did get boosted. I don't quite know. I'm trying to see if it looks like Verd boosts up his own attack bar. So yeah, I don't know. Tark might be able to team hunt with Verd. Wait, Tark goes, then Verd goes. I don't know. So either way, it's fine though. My team is very, very successful. Just like my Giants team, I think it's in the 99% successful range, maybe 99.3 or 99.5. I think it's lower than Giants, but it's still extremely successful because of Veligil. Veligil is the monster that makes it that successful. So yeah, I have to thank one of my viewers for actually recommending this team, and then I think a Twitch streamer named Island Grown, I think that's his Twitch name. I don't watch Twitch and I don't watch YouTube that much, so I don't know like who's out there these days, but I have to give a shout out to both of those people, my viewer and the Twitch streamer, for the viewer for recommending me this team, because I think the Twitch streamer Island Grown uses this team. So yeah, with Veligil. And Veligil completely slipped my mind for being a good dragons monster. So that I farmed dragons last month, but this month I'm focusing on necro. So here is my new necro team. Very successful. I think the success rate's around 98%. Maybe, yeah, probably 98%, I'd say. It rarely fails. And, well, I mean, I already told you guys that with the success rate. Earlier in the video, I was talking about my Lich's accuracy. They both have 13% accuracy, and you guys will notice sometimes they don't land their debuffs. Overall, I feel like they land a lot of debuffs, but increasing their accuracy is something that I can do in the future to speed up my run slightly. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I look to speed up my runs, and I'm not sure when I will. Like I said, my team right now is kind of like halfway between, it's like half speed team, half safe team, because I have 2 healers. And I like it though. I was pretty proud of myself that I was able to think of using Bella, because I tried the Fire Panda, he didn't work, and then I'm like, wait, I used to use Bella, let's just put her in here and she should work, and she did. And she's working amazingly. So yeah, I love my team right now, and I'll probably run this for a while. And we'll just have to see what happens in the future. I don't know. I don't know if I can really change many of these monsters to make this team much better aside from taking Bella out. I think Rayok's a really popular option to use instead of Bella. And then I actually saw Forosnai. I saw a video, I don't know how I came across it, but within the past couple days, it was like some sort of necro video, and I think he was saying don't use Lucian in necro because he's just a bad necro monster. I didn't watch the whole video, but I can see where he's coming from because Lucian doesn't have multi-hits. He does have his amputation magic, but it's kind of weak. It does help with the first couple waves, but the last one it doesn't. I don't know. A lot of people recommend Lucian, though, for a necro leader, and some people even use double Lucian, so I don't know what to say about it. I like my team, I like the success rate, I like the run time between 1 minute 30 and 2 minutes. I like how this is working out, so I can at least attest to that and show you guys that. So let's go ahead and check out an R5 run. Okay, for the R5 run, I'm going to be using supports. I kind of forgot about supports, I don't use them that much. I probably should though, because they give you basically a free R5 run, sort of, just to get the run done faster. So this is my main R5 team. And what I've been doing is, when I've been running R5, I've been looking at the debuffs to see what we're lacking. If there's no defense break on the boss, if there's no unrecoverable on the boss, I will put in Darien if I find that we don't have enough defense breaks, because with my team right here, my only defense breakers are Shaolin and Diaz. Diaz has a cooldown on it, and then Shaolin, I don't think she's really that accurate at landing it, so we didn't have defense break on there for a little bit, but that was pretty consistent. So I wouldn't be too worried about this whole lineup. Actually, we don't have it now. What's going on? How do you lose it so fast? That's crazy. Okay, so wait, let me see. Is my leader the resist leader? Yes. Okay, so yeah, my team, like I said, I made them. I'm kind of like losing things to say, or not thinking of things to say, because we're getting towards the end of the video and it's been a really long video. So most of the time they survive the third jump. I did make them very tanky compared to the last couple months, and I like how they are. If I can keep them the same next month, I will. I don't think I need to change anything right now because my run times are pretty fast and my contribution's pretty good. So we can take a look at everything over here. I'm running with 2 people that are good, so it's not really much of a surprise that my contribution's lower than theirs. So yeah, shout out to Above Us and Too Lazy to Die if you guys are watching. Thanks for the support. I don't know. Yeah, I guess thanks for the support. I would say even though they are not really doing anything, they sort of are. I think that's it, guys. I don't have anything else to say, and my brain's kind of drained, so we're in that zone where I'm kind of zoning out here, and we're just finishing up. Okay, so the third jump just happened, and we landed the attack break, which is really good. And it looks like we're gonna survive! Yay, that was a really fast run. I like fast R5 runs. I don't have any plans to build any new R5 monsters. I'm kind of working on an Ardella in storage. Yeah, Ardella, I think that's the wind chick, whatever her name is. 214, not bad, pretty good. Let's see what we get. Oh, crap. And social points. Everyone loves those, don't they? They do now because the unknown scroll drop rate's like really low compared to what it used to be, and it's still kind of bad. So yeah, I think that was it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry for that clap. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I think I will catch you guys later. I'm kind of lingering because I feel like there's more things I have to say, but I don't think there are. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Catch you guys later.